Hello, everyone on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube live. My name is Tim Mikhailishvili. I'm CEO of Amadeus Pharma, an analytics agency for life sciences that combines the sportsmanship with a data science in order to help quantify the direct business impact of medical affairs organizations using medical productivity index. I'm joining you from New York. It's late at night here because I want to share a sneak peek of an event that I'm absolutely excited about, the Medical Affairs Innovation Olympics, set to kick off September 18th. All right, so for you to understand what to expect in anticipation of this event, I thought it's important to share some highlights from last year's event when we built some inspiration. We invested our time. We took our organizations to the next level as well, among many of the competitors. But mostly, we dared to share ideas across different companies globally. And as I started to plan for this event, I wanted to think a little bit more about incentivizing a lot of our colleagues, competitors, attendees, beyond inspiration, to incentivize them and ultimately to drive them to invest their time, their resources into healthcare, into medical affairs. All right, so you can read more about the new event at the In Weekend Journal on LinkedIn. I just posted an article that describes all the information that you need to know about who can register, what kind of submissions are encouraged, what topics, how you can sponsor the event. You can also go to the Amadeus Pharma website to register there directly. And make sure to share this video with others who may be appropriate for this event among your friends in your network. So let's now switch gears and relive just a welcome and introduction video from last year. Okay, the first session that really kicked the event off next year, so that you have a better idea of the kind of character and environment to expect this year, which we're going to take even to the next level. Okay. And so I'll take you to our YouTube, where you can also purchase access, private access to all the videos from last year, all the video sessions from last year, in order to not only hear the welcome, but also all the speakers, the keynote speeches from our Olympic gold medal winner, as well as semifinals and finals, so you can actually relive the process of the competition and how it evolved over time. Okay, and so I'll now take you to last year's opening ceremony. This is a playlist, a private playlist, which, again, as I mentioned, you have access to through our website at Amadeus Pharma, where you have not only the videos, but also PowerPoints, all the resources that we shared in our learning and development community that are available for you to download. So go to our playlist, a private playlist, challenge, and let's listen to this first session from last year to understand the inspiration behind this event.
Wow, it's hard to believe the day's here. For many of us, it's also a dream come true, an opportunity to turn potential energy into momentum. Welcome to the first ever Medical Affairs Innovation Olympics, my dear friends and colleagues joining from across the globe. Thank you for responding to this challenge, for participating in this experiment, and for inspiring each other to be more innovative and more competitive across the industry. The Olympic Games are a type of competition that have outlived the human lifespan. It's a type of event in which competition is the most intense it will ever be, and also one that somehow in which the level of sportsmanship as well as engagement between competitors are also at their greatest. And it is this Olympic phenomenon that we have to recreate in medical affairs today. As many of you know, our medical division has grown tremendously, become more specialized, more technical. However, it's also facing increasing uncertainty, unpredictability with technology, volatility. So as a result, the demand for more innovative ways to represent our medical function has never been greater than it is today. My name is Tim Mikhelishvili. I'm going to be your host for this event, moderator, co-founder and CEO of Amadea Pharma, an analytics and management consulting company that helps life science organizations improve their performance and engagement by combining sportsmanship with scientific thinking. I want to share with you a personal story behind the inspiration for this event, as well as to explain why Amadea Pharma chose this particular format of competition. As I look back at my 18 years of medical affairs, having started out as a postdoctoral PharmD fellow in medical education and publications, before switching into field medical affairs roles for the remainder of my career, including training teams, I came in not having formal basic science research training, nor a Nobel Prize for that matter. However, I wanted to identify gaps, continue to add new ideas, regardless of whether or not they were implemented, how popular they were, or if they were considered to be self-promotional. So what frustrated me most often was when critical ideas or decisions did not flow forward. Because when you receive yes, that gives you acknowledgement, agreement, a potential, momentum, profit. When you get a no, that gives you more time to pursue other people, change its methods or versions of that idea. But it's when you receive no response, or maybe, that leads to a critical waste of potential, momentum, and profit as well. I've seen firsthand ideas that were initially thought to be a waste of time by management turn around an entire organization after years of frustration, significantly increase its company valuation, reinvigorate a commercial sales force, and most importantly, add access to next generation medications for many patients. So at Amadea Pharma, we follow ideas, not people, which means that we change our mind often and frequently. We acknowledge and apologize to others when it's time, immediately, with corporate social responsibility. We understand that feedback is based on our five senses, based on what that person had heard, seen, tasted, smelled, or touched before that moment when they shared their criticism or praise. And we know that to interpret feedback, we need to divide it into its individual parts or roots that ultimately cultivate our personal growth and that of our business. So as a consequence, my most memorable moments from my career were ideation events in which we submitted ideas, we evaluated them, we competed against each other over the course of 3 months at AstraZeneca early in my career, or other moments during which we escaped from our regular business meeting routine and we competed against each other in different sports. And that's when I caught myself thinking that it's during competition that we release our personality, our character. We become more present in that moment, connected to each other as colleagues and competitors. In fact, I remember a colleague friend of mine criticize and remind me, Tim, do you know that that is a global vice president of marketing for the entire company that you're playing against? Why are you playing so hard? Yet I didn't know how to compete any differently, because competition reveals. During competition is when you cannot hide who you are, regardless of whether or not you dedicate all of your efforts or you save some based on who you're playing against. As many of you have probably guessed, I'm a huge fan of competition as well as of the Olympics. I remember replicating many different events at home with friends, alone, to measure a long jump, and then keep stacks of notebooks of personal records, contests that we recorded or we created. However, I spent just as much time avoiding finding out the result of that competition. Because yes, you can fast forward to the end of that event, find out the results from your friends, watch the ticker on TV or on YouTube, but you miss out on seeing how that competitor reacts to conflict or tension, changes their direction in adversity to overcome it. Because it's during a competition where we learn how to innovate and also take those lessons, not the results alone. It's those shared experiences, that anticipation, that hope that we remember most often. And we practice not only what we preach, but we practice what we play. How we compete ultimately impacts whether or not others will want to participate in the same contests or the amount of efforts that they will dedicate as well. We are competitors at times. At other times, we're spectators. But when we choose to be passive spectators who do not intervene when competitions lack quality or sportsmanship, they lose meaning and are long forgotten over time, unlike the Olympics. To illustrate why it's critical for all of you, for all of us, to be active spectators in life and in business, I'll share an example from the 2004 Olympics, in which an entire arena rose to their feet when a guest star athlete, who was not even from the host country, received extremely low scores from the judges. And they didn't return back to their seats until the judges adjusted the scores, which was an unprecedented sight in the world of gymnastics. So Amadev Pharma has organized this event for all of you to continue on its mission to help life science organizations generate innovation, quality, and continuity in healthcare. But in order to do that in this competitive environment, I believe that we need to learn how to design the types of contests that matter, in which more people will want to participate, not just have to. So I'm absolutely excited because over the next month, we will change our norms of communication, how we share feedback with each other across companies, debate ideas, innovate. We will design new metrics, formats, and processes of performance evaluation that will inspire future behaviors rather than report past activities alone. And we will build a learning and development community together as we start with competition, continue with collaboration, and end with innovation that you will own and take back to your organizations and advance medical affairs. And now it is my absolute honor and pleasure to introduce our first guest speaker and to pass the Olympic torch to Dave Giles, my personal friend, a mentor, pharmaceutical executive of over 30 years. In his most recent role, he was a vice president of global commercial operations at Shire, prior to which he led the national sales and marketing team in rare disease at Mallinckrodt, and also led a commercial franchise in cardiology at AstraZeneca, where I had the fortune of getting to know him. So Dave, the torch is yours. I'm going to take you off mute, and I can't wait to hear his thoughts about this event.
Listen, first, I just want to thank all of you for taking your time to be here, and thank you, Tim, for putting this event together. I know that there's been a tremendous amount of work on your part, and I think that everyone is going to see the benefit as we go through the event. But as you were describing my background, I was just thinking to myself, who am I? Why would someone want to hear what I have to say? Well, who am I? I'm a full-time dad. I have fraternal twin 15-year-old boys. And believe you me, if you want to know about innovation and hard work, just talk to a stay-at-home parent, because it pretty much takes it all the time. But when Tim asked me to be part of this, I said, what can I possibly offer to this group of people? I mean, I'm a commercial guy. I haven't been in medical affairs. And he said, yeah, but in 30 years, certainly you've got some innovation, things that have gone well, things that haven't gone well, and maybe some things that can help people, learn and grow. I said, okay, I'll be glad to do that. So my initial title for this was going to be, warning, this talk may be dangerous. And the reason I thought about that is because if you're really innovating, it is dangerous. It's especially dangerous to the status quo. And let's don't forget about our industry right now. I mean, we are in an industry that has at one point in time been called the second riskiest behind casino gambling, or the casino business, gaming. The second most regulated behind nuclear power. And all I have to say is, thank God nuclear power is the top most regulated industry. I'm a fan, but I'm sure they need regulation. And we are at times second only to big tobacco or maybe big banking in terms of a negative public image. So why would an industry like ours be afraid to innovate? Well, the business models work pretty well over time. And I think that there, within organizations and outside organizations, there are lots of challenges. So the first thing I want to talk about is challenges. And I had prepared a written speech, but I thought, you know what? I think probably the best way to get this across is to tell you some stories. So we're going to talk about that, challenges. The second thing is, why must we innovate? I mean, if it's so hard to do, why do we have to do it? And then finally, what is your unique opportunity here? Because this is a unique, it's a different program. And I think it's going to offer you some different and better opportunities. So as I talk, I'm going to walk around because I don't care if you see me or my background. I'd really rather you listen to what I say. I think I have a face made for radio. And some of you who may know me may know that I've gotten older, fatter, and balder since I left the pharmaceutical industry. So my advice to everyone is don't retire. That said, I had almost 30 years in the business and I really enjoyed it. Spent time in commercial, mostly in marketing and sales, spent time in market access, and operations, a variety of roles in a number of different companies, both on the manufacturer side and on the vendor side. So I have some experience, which explains the gray hair and the baldness to some degree. So let me talk a little bit first about challenges. You know, there are a lot of external challenges to innovation. And probably the thing that we think about most often is about how our industry is so risk averse. And we talked about why it's risk averse in the sense that this model has worked pretty well. But also think about the fact that in the last 15 years, the industry's paid over $20 billion in fines. Now, to understand that, I think about when I was a rep in the field, literally almost exactly 30 years ago. And one of my competitor reps had a product that had just launched. And I remember we were selling a antihypertensive. And at the time, there was like one of maybe 85 of them available. And this competitor was formidable, and they were known as a powerhouse in cardiology. And they launched a new product for hypertension. But a few weeks after that, I started hearing from the physicians that this product is also indicated for the treatment of heart failure. So I went back and looked at the label of it, and I looked at the research, and I couldn't find anything that had changed about heart failure. And I was interested in heart failure because my family suffers from a bad cardiovascular background genetically. So I wanted to find out more about this from my competitive reps. And I said, I didn't realize this was the case. And this rep showed me an example of a reprint where this product had been used in the treatment of heart failure. And I said, but that's not an indication. And this person said, yeah, they always tell us that when we get reprints like this, that we have to use them really fast because they're probably going to get pulled. And I said, you know, the company I came from, I just couldn't imagine would do that. I said, why would they justify that, knowing that that's just wrong? And he said, well, from a revenue perspective, the company kind of felt like they're going to gain additional revenue from doing this, essentially marketing off-label. And there's really not much the government's going to do to find them. And that actually, to my earlier point, that actually persisted for a number of years before the government decided we're going to have to find them very well if they're actually going to be compliant. And so the industry has, of course, changed a lot since then. And I'm actually proud to say that I think most of the companies that I've been with, and that all of them that I've been with and that I'm familiar with, have taken this very seriously and are very compliant now. That's one external challenge around off-label promotion and how it costs the company. But I'll tell you another story, and this is about one of my sons. One of my sons, they're twins, as I told you before, when he was only 4 years old, he stopped growing. And we couldn't figure out why. Now, this child had really, really bad asthma. And the doctors just kept increasing the dose of his inhaled corticosteroid to get this asthma under control. And we finally got the asthma under control, but we noticed his brother's getting a lot bigger. And we brought it to the attention of the doctors, and they said, no, it's completely safe. That shouldn't have anything to do with it at all. So we said, okay. We took him to a lot of doctors, though, because he didn't grow again. Was several inches, if not a foot taller than him. And meanwhile, we've been to the hospital several times with this child with a lot of GI distress. And so we were concerned. And it wasn't until my wife spoke to the head of pediatric pulmonology at CHOP that we were able to determine that he was completely adrenally insufficient. And it was because of the high dose steroids that he had been taking over time. And it was because physicians believed that there was really no way that they could be unsafe, in spite of the fact that the 5th bullet point on the label of this product is a warning against that. So the reason that I bring that up is, in our industry, it's so critical that we are able to innovate, but also help people understand the benefits and the risks of our products, because they have a very real meaning to people. So there are lots of external risk factors associated with innovating in the wrong way. There are also external risk factors innovating appropriately, because companies tend to have become much less risk tolerant as a result of these processes. And I think that's just something that we all have to understand is going to happen in an environment in which we live today. Because they are so much less risk tolerant, that poses a lot of internal threats to innovation, internal challenges to innovation. And I had some examples I shared with Tim I wanted to share with you. One of those was a situation where we had a brand that was being promoted by thousands of salespeople, but we needed to have those salespeople deployed to a different product with a different set of indications. And so we decided the only way we could do that was to augment our live in-person sales reps with a multi-channel marketing approach, where we did some digital strategy. We had new service reps calling on the offices, and we had a telesales program. And it turned out that there was a lot of resistance to this initially, but it made a lot of sense, and it gave us additional capacity. Well, I learned from that no good deed goes unpunished, because unfortunately that disrupted things, And it made people start to wonder if we should be investing more in those types of channels than we had been previously. And this was a challenge because in many of our organizations, the sales force is large, and a lot of people in leadership came from the sales force. I have tremendous amount of respect for the sales force. That's where I started my career. My most recent job, I was a national sales director. And I think it's a wonderful thing. But challenging that paradigm really caused the organization to react. And so, because it was so different than the status quo. The other example that I had is when I worked as part of a vendor company where we had this technology. If you've ever been to LabCorp, you know that you can put your driver's license down and your insurance card down, and it would automatically check you in, and they have all your information. We had the same thing actually before that, and we saw a problem in the market, and that was in the rare disease market, where the prescription is actually a referral that comes from the prescriber's office, that in 25 to 30, 35% of instances across companies, not just one company, across companies, those forms were coming into the company, and yet they weren't being properly processed. And it's because there was information there that was either incomplete or incorrect. So we took that technology, we made it really, really simple for the offices to scan the driver's license and the insurance card and eliminate that manual input, ensure more consistency in the forms, and thereby reduce the number of these forms that weren't being properly processed. And most importantly, making sure that patients who needed medication were getting the medication, and they weren't, it wasn't a challenge for them because of some clerical error. Interestingly enough, we found that there was zero appetite for such technology because offices have their own workflow. They didn't want to change the way that they did it. And so while it would have been very helpful and very innovative, it was the type of thing that was a challenge because it was something that they could not incorporate easily into their workflow. So there are many challenges to innovation. It's challenging within an organization. It's challenging across organizations. But the question comes down to, then why must we innovate? Why does it matter? And I think all of our companies say this, and I want to believe that we're all doing everything we can to live into this. And that is, it's all about the patient. Because when I think of medical affairs, I think you're some of the smartest people in the company. And I think the job that you have to generate scientific information and communicate scientific information to our customers is absolutely critical. Now, when I first became a rep, I'll never forget the first meeting that I ever went to, the launch for the company. The vice president of sales said, "You're not just a rep, you are part of the healthcare delivery system." And I thought, what? He said, because you're going to provide prescribers with information they need on the benefits and risks of products that is going to help them make decisions. I would say that in your roles, you're even more of a part of that system, because what you do is about the science, which in my opinion is the thing that is the foundation of this entire industry. And it's your role. So taking the opportunity to learn how to innovate and do that better is ultimately in the benefit of patients. Now, why this program? Well, I want to give a lot of credit to Tim. Tim has done a great job. And just take the chance that you have now to make the most that you can of this opportunity. So thanks for the opportunity, Tim, and I'm going to hand it back over to you.
Thank you, Dave, very much. And you were the first person who I had heard about multi-channel marketing and LinkedIn, the importance of having a very active following on LinkedIn years ago. So here I am now being quite active, I would say, on LinkedIn. So I'm honored that you're also an advisor at Amadev Pharma and that you continue to believe and support me and our vision together.
Thank you.
Yes, now I'd like to pass the Olympic torch to Robin Wintersperry, everyone. So Robin is also a personal mentor, a friend, and she has created 2 different communities that I was able to connect to at different times of my career, both of which had an instrumental role in my personal growth and career growth. The first one was many years ago, Scientific Advantage, learning about what field medical liaisons did. And the second one was more recently, 4 or 5 years ago, when I joined the Medical Affairs Professional Society, this global organization that she'll talk about, with whom I have partnered for this event, because I had spent many years in this industry, but there was a lot more that I wanted to learn from various different competitor companies, other companies, other functions as well. So I'm forever grateful and indebted to Robin for her mentorship and the opportunities, the platform she has created for me and for many other leaders. Robin, please share your thoughts on this event and on MAPS as well.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Sorry, I was muted for a second there. I have to say, I mean, first listening to Dave, we're all patients, and you have an audience of healthcare providers. But one thing I've learned from you, Tim, and known you for quite a few years, as you said, you really know how to not only have creative ideas, but bring them to fruition. And I think this is, such a wonderful opportunity. And if we don't innovate, we're going to go the way of the dinosaur. So, I mean, this is really critical. Medical liaisons, as you mentioned, I've worked with many years, medical affairs, many years in all these different areas, and quite a few people that I could see that have joined us. I've also had the pleasure of knowing, but always look forward to learning from everybody. And I think this is such a great forum that you've put together to give people a chance to learn from each other, to get to know other people, and to really start thinking differently. I mean, it's about the patient, it's about science, it's about really innovating and changing things. And change isn't always easy. And you and I have talked about this quite a bit. And I know many on the phone sit there and struggle with, you want to be able to predict what's coming next. You want to look at how things are forming in linear progression, and science isn't always like that. And neither is medicine. I mean, medicine as part of science clearly is really innovative in itself. I mean, all patients are different, but all of us have similarities. And if we don't innovate, we're not going to continue to improve. So these forums and what you're doing here is such a wonderful opportunity for people to have a chance to showcase the way that they're thinking, to learn from each other. And, as you mentioned, MAPS, I can't say that I'm speaking for MAPS, but certainly been a very active volunteer, that we have over nearly 10,000 people, over 9,000 members right now. And it's all part of the art of communicating with each other, learning from each other, bringing that deeper scientific network, because we're concentrated in medical affairs and all aspects of it. But, we don't move forward if we're not open to new ideas. And I really am very honored to be involved with this, and grateful to you, Tim, for putting this together, for giving me the chance to at least talk about my appreciation of everything that you are doing. And you really do show all of us how having wonderful ideas can really come to fruition. All of your efforts are greatly appreciated. And as I mentioned a minute ago, I'm really honored to be here to be part of it, and really look forward to learning from all the Olympians to see what's going to happen and what ideas they bring forward. So thank you so much for inviting me. And I know you're going to turn things over to Eleanor in a minute. So back to you, Tim. Yes. And again, look forward to everybody that's competing directly or observing, and to the great ideas that I know are going to be shared.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
How would you define creativity?
How do I define creativity? I don't feel I'm very creative scientist. I wish I can be more creative. But if you force me to think about it, I can come up with the 3 simple concepts. One is you have to be very curious about something. Number 2, you have to have unfailing urge to address the question you have. Number 3, I think it helps to try to combine knowledge in at least 2 different fields where people don't necessarily interact. So those are the 3 things come to me as the we should be a little bit more creative.
Well, I hope you enjoyed those points there from Dr. Tonegawa, Nobel Prize winner. And this is only the beginning. You're going to hear from me a lot here on LinkedIn, across Facebook, on YouTube as well. And I'll be sharing more of these videos as highlights from last year. And also providing more different perspectives from expert judges next week. Tune in August 2nd. We'll have two judges, Matt Lewis and Michael Kahn, to speak about what they expect next year. And make sure to follow Amadea Pharma. Stay tuned with our website. And let's make this event even larger, even more meaningful, for others to understand what medical affairs really is all about, how we can invest into healthcare, and also create that connection between personal healthcare and its place in our environment on a global scale as well. So have a great weekend, everyone. From New York, Tim. Talk to you soon.